This is the Average Joe Strongman Show.
Hello, everybody. I am Mike, and this is Lee, and this is the Average Joe Strongman Show. I want to thank you guys for watching, listening, however you are consuming this content, this podcast. Thank you for being here. Tonight, we have a great episode with a very, very strong human. He is the co-owner of Team BSS in Boardman, Ohio, just outside of Youngstown. He's the winner of the 2018 XPC Deadlift Salute at the Arnold. He had an 854 pull. So some serious weight. He finished fourth at Clash on the Coast this last year. He's also the author of Pull, a manual for people who want to break records. He knows something about that. He's also a co-rep for United States Strongman in Ohio. And I think without question, he's got one of the best beards in the world of strongman. So without further ado, Mr. Shawn Schumaker, everyone.
Here we go. There he is.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, Shawn?
Pretty good. You?
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Hey, so we're going to jump right into it. So you were a bodybuilder before you were a strongman competitor. How long have you been competing in strongman now, and what made you decide to transition between bodybuilding to strongman?
So we did our first competition in 2010. So what, 10 years? Or no, 2011. So it's been 10 years.
11,
yeah, 10 years. I was not good at bodybuilding. The diet was just was hard for me.
That's why Lee and I haven't done it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's just so hard. And I love the training, but yeah, I love putting on muscle. I love the off season. I love the training. I love everything about the sport, except like I would start getting close to that contest shape, and then I would always just hit this like stop, and then I could never get that last little bit off. So
we've talked before about, there's a special kind of discipline required for training, right? For powerlifting, strongman, but whatever. You got to have a special kind of mindset and be a little bit crazy. But the discipline required to adhere to the nutrition plan and the diet for bodybuilding and physique, I mean, it's another level.
That's
so it is.
I hear you.
It's constant, and it's everything you do all day long. So you know what I mean? Like you wake up too late, you know what I mean? You're every meal of every day, you're thinking about this bodybuilding prep. Like you can never forget about it at all. If you lose a little bit of sleep, your whole day's affected the next day. And then there is your training. And it's a lot.
So prior to bodybuilding, what was your background as far as sports? I mean, you were an athlete at all in high school, college?
Actually, no. I didn't play any sports in high school. I started training when I was 14 years old. I was just in the bodybuilding and lifting weights and getting stronger, but I was so socially awkward. The last thing that I needed was to like try to be on a team with other people. Wow. It just didn't I didn't mix well with other people. I didn't have a whole lot of friends in school, and so didn't work out.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised to hear that.
That's really surprised to hear that.
Yeah, such a nice guy, but also, I mean, you're just so damn strong. Whether it was wrestling, football, whatever sport you would have played, I think you would have been a beast.
No, I was. Strength did come pretty easily. Like when I started training, I was getting strong pretty fast. We would all arm wrestle in the cafeteria and stuff, and I didn't be kicking everybody's asses and stuff. But I just couldn't. I couldn't be on a team. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Interesting.
So did you open Team BSS before or after you started getting into strongman?
Actually, we opened in 2011, so it was the same year. Okay. So my last bodybuilding competition was 2011. My first strongman competition was 2011, and we opened the gym in 2011. So they all kind of it was a big, crazy year, actually.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like
it was.
What's the community like there at the gym? I mean, is it strictly strongman and powerlifting? Do you have other strength athletes? What's BSS or Team BSS all about?
So BSS is we're a pretty good mixture of everything. We have a real large community of just general fitness people that like to work out, like they do CrossFit workouts.
Okay.
And then we'll have like a handful of people that like to compete in CrossFit. Some of them like to compete in strongman as well. Then we have our little strongman crew. And then every once in a while, someone will jump into a powerlifting competition. But everybody's so high energy and likes to be doing like super athletic and stuff that the powerlifting just doesn't appeal to them as much.
Okay.
But every once in a while, it'll be like, I'm going to test my lifts. I'm going to jump into a powerlifting meet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so
the
we're
thing.
kind of all over the place.
Okay. Well, that's cool though. It's kind of a good mix. And I think it that sort of variety, I think, gives people different options. We've talked before about how, with no disrespect to powerlifters, I mean, there's some really, really strong people in the world, but there's a level of athleticism required for strongman that you just don't get in powerlifting, right? It's 3 static lifts, right? With strongman, we're not just lifting 500, 600, 700 pounds. We're moving with that weight, right?
Right. And
I would
lifting it
think
multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's where, there's some kind of cross appeal with CrossFit, right? Because it's in a similar regard.
Yeah, because it's almost the same sport, really. Just one's heavier and it's not as the work, they don't go as long, but it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, and I think there's some carryover too. I mean, there's been a few at River City Barbell. I've actually got one of the top girls that powerlifters at River City Barbell is going to be competing in January. And it was one of those things where, the powerlifters are actually looking at it more, like you said, it's all static, but they're looking at more of their accessory work, and they see us doing the strongman stuff all the time, right? So they're naturally intrigued. And I've had quite a few of the guys from the powerlifting side come over and try, if we're doing car deadlift or something awesome like that, they'll come out and give it a shot. But you start to see it more from the accessory side for those guys where they seem to show interest in strongman. They're still focused and keyed in powerlifting, but I see a lot of them branching out and doing some accessory work with farmers carries and things like that seem to carry over and help them in powerlifting as well. So I'm not surprised to hear that. It used to be a shocking thing where you didn't see, usually it was powerlifting and strongman, they kind of butted heads, but I'm seeing it more and more and more that, the relationship we have at our gym is fantastic. It's, it's a match made in heaven for sure, but great crew. But it's interesting to see for sure.
So speaking of that crossover, Shawn, do you see more CrossFit athletes dipping their toe in strongman, or do you see more strongman athletes dipping their toe in CrossFit? I think I know the answer. I want to see
more CrossFit going to the strongman. Especially with the weight classes like the 80, 90 kilo men and like lightweight women, like even at OSG, I want to say more than half of those athletes had a background in CrossFit before they came over and competed in strongman. Yeah.
Any of those guys who you competed with at Clash, are those former CrossFit guys too?
You know what? There were a few guys that have done some CrossFit. I know Jordan Donaldson. He's a top athlete, and he dabbles in CrossFit as well. I've seen him compete in it a few times. Yeah.
What about Camby? I know Camby won, right? He won the Clash.
Yeah, Camby won. He has an Olympic lifting background. I don't know.
Okay, that's right. I knew it was something else. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
But,
can we call it Olympic lifting anymore?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, not anymore. Really. It's right there in the name, and it's gone.
Right.
Yeah, something that I've seen too, at least with a couple of people that train with us, that the CrossFit crossovers. It almost seems like that. The people that I see migrate over from CrossFit into strongman, at least full time, are the ones that have kind of exhausted the challenge at CrossFit and they want that next step of intensity. So they just kind of bridge over and end up competing, completely strongman. I got a couple girls at my gym that were that way. They competed CrossFit and they're like, okay, I get the point, but now I want something more. So it's kind of interesting. So Shawn, what do you see as the biggest obstacle, the biggest hurdle, like for people who do want to maybe cross over and go from CrossFit to strongman? What's kind of the one thing that holds them back, or is there any one thing that holds them back, Shawn?
I think the thing that I've seen hold people back most is like just the static events, like the max deadlifts and stuff like that. I mean, the presses, they're usually really good at the presses because they could all jerk. Yeah. But like the max effort, like the deadlifts, the axle deadlifts and stuff like that usually hurts them a lot because they're, or even some of the farmer carries is more than they can pick up and carry.
Sure,
But
yeah.
like, they're usually pretty good at the moving events, and then the presses. A lot of them have a really good press.
They just got to buy your book, man, or hire you to coach.
That's right.
Follow the program.
Right.
Figure
Right.
it out.
Makes a big difference.
For sure. So, Shawn, you've had a good bit of success in strongman. I mean, you've competed on some pretty big stages, you know, Arnold, official strongman games. What do you feel like's been the key component to your success to get to that level?
From when we started, I always jumped in over my head. So like, I complain about this with a lot of athletes now that won't leave the novice class, or for the first 3 years of me competing, most of the competitions I did, I would enter knowing that I would zero at least 2 or 3 events.
Really?
Right. And then I would make myself train to hit those numbers, always pushing to hit numbers that like weren't even close. And as I went, I just kept getting stronger. And then, you know, once I started off in the 220, 231 class, but on a local level, I started going up to like heavyweights and super heavyweights classes because I was already able to do all the 231 numbers. So then I would jump up and like, I think that was what really hit my success for like my advancement in the sport, really.
And you don't see that very often at all. It's usually just exactly the opposite. You got, you know, like you said, there, you know, there's some people that just don't want to leave novice or can't leave novice, but you know, if you're going to get better, it's, you know, it's the same mentality of, you know, if you want to be a monster, you got to train with monsters, right? You got to get in there and get acclimated to, you know, the jungle of what it's going to take to get to the level you want to be at, for sure. So that's interesting.
Well, and I think not being afraid to zero, right? Sometimes it's, you know,
it's huge, right?
Sometimes it's strategy, sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's just like you go in, you give it your all, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. But you know, you try.
Right. Like, I was going to go in, I was going to push like hell, and I was going to see what I can make happen. And if nothing happened, at least I tried. And
sure. Well, and clearly you made your money on deadlift, right? So
for sure.
So clearly you made your money on the deadlift. So
oh yeah, I always won deadlift. There was never, until 2018 OSG, I've never lost a deadlift event ever. Even from my first show. Yeah, it was kind of like I had this hot streak going, and then it was the deadlift ladder, and Anthony Furman got me by 100th of a second, and I was like,
wow,
streak. Yep. But I'll take it.
I remember that.
It was a speed event. It wasn't really a deadlift. It was a speed event.
I remember that 2017 Hope down in St. Louis, and you pulled big down there.
Yeah,
I was watching you, just like.
I think that was my first 800 pull.
Or was it okay? Yeah.
Was it 750 or 8? Shoot, 2017.
It was something big like that. Yeah, I don't remember. But
2017 was my 700 or 800, because then I went to the Arnold in 2018
and then
hit
850.
Yep.
Yeah.
854.
Good for you, man.
Absolutely ridiculous.
So like a lot of strong woman competitors, you've had to deal with your fair share of injury, you know, as have Lee and I, and again, so many others. What's kept you going and prevented you from saying, you know, that's it, screw it, I'm done, just hanging it up, and just, you know, kept you moving forward?
I had an end game. So I have an end goal, and actually it's coming. It's probably, I want to say it's coming to an end at Clash this year. So I wanted to compete a few times on a high level. I wanted to compete on a high level and be happy with my performance, at least, you know, multiple times. And I wanted to hit a 900-pound deadlift. Well, in 4 weeks, I'll go for the deadlift, and then we'll have Clash, which will be the last high level competition. But I wasn't quitting until I had completed what I had already said I was going to do.
Okay.
So no matter how many injuries I got, I still had to finish off my plan. Yeah.
Good for you, man. Never quit. I love it.
Yeah,
for sure. So what's the follow-up after that, Shawn? I mean, once you hit it, you say, okay, screw it, I'm done. What's after that?
I want to go just focus on coaching, the other athletes. And like, I'll keep training, and I might, you know, get the bug and jump in. Like, I'm not saying that, but I'm taking the pressure off myself and saying that it's okay to quit now. But yeah, my main goal is coaching other athletes. Like, I've really taken a liking to coaching other athletes, and like,
good for you.
I'm at the point now where like competing is not as exciting as it used to be. Like, I used to get super fired up to compete, and now it's like another day of training. But now I'm getting fired up for my athletes.
Yeah.
So that's my new high, really.
Cool,
so
man.
And I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I mean, my goal is to compete OSG next year, and then that'll probably be
that'd
my
be
last
awesome.
strongman comp.
But you
But
need
again,
that
I'm
closer,
that's
right?
right. I need that closer,
Right.
and then but I'm in the same boat you are. I mean, I'm getting as much enjoyment and fulfillment out of watching athletes compete and seeing them excel.
Mm-hmm.
As I did when I was competing, and it's growing, helping grow the sport and growing that next generation of people. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good for you, man.
It's very
That's awesome.
satisfying to see somebody get stronger kind of on your watch, right?
Yeah.
Right.
To see
Yep.
them hit PRs
Right.
and see them progress and improve. And
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For
yeah,
sure.
agreed.
And not to
we're
say
going to
that
take
go ahead.
you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, not to say that this last year wasn't a little bit rough, knowing that I was coming to an end, but like I'm now excited to take on this new role.
Yeah,
Sure.
good for you.
No,
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about. We're going to show some of the upcoming shows, including the one you've got in June, I think, right? June 4th,
June
5th, 6th. Yeah, I want to talk about that for a minute before we get into this. What are the events at that show? And
I don't have the events offhand.
No. It'll be on the screen in a minute.
It'll be on the
Yeah,
slide.
it'll be on the screen in a minute, but it's to help raise money for autism. So we're running it together
Oh, good for you.
An autism society, and we're gonna have it like at the local fairgrounds, and there's gonna be other events taking place. So there's gonna be like a lot of spectators and foot traffic and stuff like that. So yeah,
I like hearing that. Well, Lee and I have done that, I think, with our most recent shows. I've done it with all my shows. There's some kind of charity or philanthropic angle. So I like hearing that. I see more and more promoters doing that, which is great. To kind of give back.
For sure. You're raising the money. You know what I mean? So you might as well put it towards a good cause.
Yeah,
that's right.
Awesome. We'll be back in 2 minutes. So quick break. Sit tight.
All right. And we're back.
So I got to tell you, I saw the slide, and the thing I wanted to ask you about, the ascending weight farmer's carry, you evil genius. I've done that with yoke in training with the group that I train up here. But dude, ascending weight farmers, where'd you come up with that one? Because that's just sick and wrong and wonderful.
What was it, 2016? I don't even remember what year that was. 2017 or 2016, we ran Pro Women's Worlds, and we just came up with that event, and it went well. Like, we liked it a lot, so we're bringing it back this year for this competition.
I mean, but think about that. Like, farmers, yoke, any kind of carry that we can add weight, or a car deadlift, right, where you're adding weight. I mean, just the level of misery that you can reach with that.
Oh, that will take your soul. I did that at my first pro show. Chad Coy put that on as, I think it was our second event, and it was ascending farmers. So it was 3 sets of farmers, 50 feet a piece. And I think it was like 280 a hand, 300 a hand, and like 330 a hand. Oh, wow. By the time I hit the third run, I actually watched my soul leave my body. and it was funny because I saw Jim Morris there, and I thought, I thought I was hallucinating. I was just so jacked. And I said, God, that looks like Jim Morris just before the lights about went out. Yeah, that will take your soul. That is absolutely brutal.
That's a rough one.
Love it for sure. So, Shawn, you were dealing with a pretty serious neck injury going into this year. I mean, how difficult was that for your prep, and how did you prep for that given that injury? Or did it affect your prep, or tell us about that?
So actually, so on day one of my prep, I clean and pressed the log, 330 pounds. I wanted to make sure I was going to be able to hit the log at OSG, and it lockout. I had this pop. It felt like I cracked my neck. So I put the log down, and like my whole shoulder and everything just tightened up. Mm-hmm. So I kind of finished the day of training. Like, it hurt, but I was careful. And the following week I went in, well, I was at home actually, and I went to get something out from under my bed, and I went to get like on my hands and knees, and I just face planted. My right arm, like my pec, my tricep, and something in my back had just totally shut off, like the nerve from the nerve. So I messed with it for about 2 weeks, and I couldn't press anything. I couldn't even press 135 on a barbell. So I decided I wasn't doing OSG. Like, it was it. Okay. So then I went and got an MRI. I found out that I fractured a vertebrae. It was like just a crack in it. So it wasn't like something I was going to need surgery. And I herniated a disc in my T-spine. So we had decided no OSG. So I just did some strength training, everything. But about 3 weeks out, like, everything was feeling good. And, I'm an idiot. And I'm like, what?
We're all a little crazy.
We're all a
little
off.
Right. Like, I've been training, the strength, and I feel like I felt before I went to the Clash. So how much could I have lost not training like events for the last 12 weeks?
Yeah.
So we got the OSG, and I had realized I had lost a lot from not training those 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I picked up the car yoke, and I felt my neck crack again. And then just swelling, just like it engulfed my traps. You guys have seen the pictures.
That was 900 pounds, right? Or 1,000?
Right. And like that was it. Like, I couldn't. So that was the end of that. Like, I did the other two. I did the last 2 events, like, for the qualifying rounds, like the deadlift and the sandbag. But it was like, it didn't affect me, but it hurt a lot.
Yeah.
But that was probably dumb too. But I didn't want to.
We've all done that dumb shit.
How it goes.
All been
so,
there.
But I had since not done any overhead pressing. I haven't put anything on my back or anything.
Yeah.
I'm still able to deadlift, which was surprising.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels great now. So
Good.
I'm assuming that it's pretty much healed, but I'm going to give it another month before I start messing with it again. I did go back to the doctor, and she said that I didn't make it worse. I just really like aggravated the muscle tissue around it. And
well,
so,
best of luck with that, man.
It's funny because, like Mike said, we're all stupid in that capacity.
Right.
And actually that happened to me just a few years ago. And actually Mike was the one trying to talk me out of my second pro show. I'd torn my rotator, and I ended up went into the show and had to zero. First event was axle clean and press, and I had to take a 0.
Yeah.
Because I knew I couldn't clean 135. My shoulder was just shot. So I just took a 0 on the first event, but I completed the last 4. But for me, it was like, I'm not going to do any more damage to it. I was having surgery the following Friday. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to go compete. Right. So probably not the smartest thing to do. Well, and Mike to the end was like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? But
you're going to go out. You're going to go out Bon Jovi style in a blaze of glory.
Right. It's just, I think it's, everybody, I think every strongman athlete has that moment where they're like, should I, shouldn't I, right? It's the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, and it's like the devil always wins, right? So
even though a big part of me knew better, I went into it, and
that's same. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you in your training, Shawn, do you follow a specific program? Do you have a coach, or what's that like?
So my programming, I just do my own programming. I always have. I'm thinking about getting some help on this last competition for Clash, just because I've gotten to the part where I'm getting older and I don't want to do things. But if I have someone oversee my programming, we're like, look,
you're accountable to.
Right. And now I'll do it because even like getting ready for Clash last year, like I trained harder than I have in a long time.
Yeah.
But there were times I'd like have 3 run-throughs of the medley. I'd get out there, warm up, do one, and be like, okay, that's good. Like, I don't want to overdo it. And then that's all I did when I could have probably done all 3 and would have got more out of it. But I'm doing all on my own. I'm basing off of how I feel and how I recover. And, as you get older, you don't recover as fast. So that comes more important.
100%.
Like basing your training on how you feel.
Yeah.
So,
no, we've talked about that ad nauseum. So along those same lines, so how many days a week would you say you do train at this point in your life versus say 10 years ago?
Right now I'm training 4.
Okay.
4 days a week. As I get closer to a show, I'll do 5 just to get like an extra light medley day in, not like a real medley, but just light, just to move. Then it seems like it doesn't beat me up as bad because I'm used to carrying the stuff all the time.
Yep.
Before I would train, sometimes I train 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Like back when I first started. Yeah.
Yeah. No, same. Yeah, I was 5-6 days a week, and then finally, like 4 or 5 years ago, Vaccio and Lee slapped some sense at him and said, "Dude, cut it back to 3 or 4. What are you doing, jackass?"
Yeah, 3 or 4 is plenty.
And I actually got stronger when I cut back. When I dialed it back, I got stronger.
No,
it's funny how that happens.
Right? It's the recovery. You just can't. It was my coach told me. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He's like, "You're overtraining." He said, "That's why you feel like crap. And that's why your lifts aren't going up. You're overtraining." He says, "You need to deload now."
Yeah.
And then cut your training back to 3 days a week. He's like, "You're not a spring chicken anymore." As
now.
much as I didn't want to get, look at me now. But I didn't want to get that through my head either. It's like, I can train 5 days a week. I can do whatever I want, right? No.
Right. And sometimes the training is just because you like training.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I just want to train today. So I'm trying to think of things that I could go do. And that's not helping. Like I need to just let it go and rest or do some conditioning or something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talked about, when you went to OSG and you the 12 weeks off and how you lost more strength than you thought. I mean, the reality of it is, and like I've said this before, strength will fade like this. Conditioning will go like that. I mean, it's like conditioning goes in a snap.
When that's what,
Yeah, and I think it goes the inverse too. And I've had several people tell me this, and I've told this to several people that I train too. It's like 1 or 2 weeks out. It's like, as you're metering your training, as you're ramping up to your comp or your event, it's how much stronger are you going to get in the next 10 days?
Not very.
Right? Not very. What are you doing? Right? Start thinking about finesse, technique, and conditioning, and stop thinking about how much power you're going to build in the next 10 or 14 days, because you're not, right? It's not even going to be measurable. So
think about your performance, how you're going to perform.
Exactly.
Don't worry about your strength. Yeah.
Right.
So do you get much? Speaking of, so I'm glad you brought that up. So speaking of that, and Shawn, you said you like the coaching now. So with the athletes that you coach, do you get pushback on people for that deload? Because I do sometimes, and I'm like, just listen to me, just do the deload, do the deload, do the deload, right?
Well, I'll slip it in, and it won't really seem like a deload,
like the quarterback on prom night.
Right. Like we're gonna have a few easy days, just to do this and mix it up, or and then next thing you know, they had their deload, and then they just move on. And but a lot of my athletes do welcome a deload when you do really give them. Mm-hmm.
That's a tough thing too, is knowing when to deload too. That was really tough for me. It's like, at what point do you say, okay, well, I'm gonna go 14 weeks, right, and then I'll do a deload week, right? But
what's the matter with you?
Sometimes it's
14
like
weeks.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, but then it got to the point where it's like, after 6 weeks, I'm like, oh my God, maybe not a full week deload, but I'd take 2-3 days, because you just get beat up, right? You just have to do it. So
you need that. You do need that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you get older. for sure.
Oh, I agree.
Like
I think
you.
it's even worse. Yeah, like me, for sure. Yeah, you're what, 30 seconds younger than me, so shut up.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, hey, assuming that deadlift's your favorite event,
Mhm.
you have a second favorite event? If so, what is it? Right? I mean, we all know deadlift's the bomb, right? But
That's it. Yeah. I mean, I hate deadlifting just because it just gives me anxiety.
what?
I hate it. It stresses me out so much. And I think it's because I'm good at it and I have these expectations, so I can't,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But
yeah.
I do I like heavy, long medleys.
Okay.
Because like I'm not fast, but if it's heavy and it's long, I'll catch up.
Yeah.
And I could usually just keep going. And I really like that. I like that a lot.
Well, he knows all about heavy, long things when he was in prison.
That's right. For sure.
Sorry, Shawn.
But yeah, I like the Clash medley that we did out on the beach with it was like 75 seconds.
Oh,
yeah.
That was
I enjoyed that. And it was fun because there were a lot of people that just didn't finish it,
Yeah.
And it was nice to be like, I was able to finish it, and not necessarily because I was fast. It was because I could go heavy. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I mean, anything in sand, anything on a beach, I mean, talk about evil genius.
That's a whole nother level right there. Yeah. For
sure. I remember some of those old World's Strongest Man with those guys like in the water on the beach, whatever, just like, no thank you, thank you.
I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't realize how hard. But like when you're sleeping and you're dreaming that you're running and you're not really going anywhere.
Right.
That's exactly how that felt. Like,
and I've never had that dream of running.
Like, you have to move faster. And I was like, I'm moving as fast as I can. Like, I don't know how to move
like in
faster.
slow motion.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it was a fun event.
Cool. So looking back on the last 10 years since 2011, if you could have a redo, hit the reset button, and have one competition you could do over, which one would it be? Or is there one?
I would say Clash on the Coast. Like, I'm really happy with how I did at Clash. Like, that was the best I felt probably since I was in my early 30s. Like, in a competition. Like, I felt good. Like, my training was on point. I trained hard. Like, I was excited about the competition. But that last event with the Atlas Stone, I decided to wear my sleeves, and I knew it was hot, and I was sweating. And if I'd have got the 420 stone without my sleeve slipping, I believe I'd have came in second place.
Yeah.
Which would have been like, I'd have probably just retired right there. But my stone,
that was a tough field, man. That was a tough field.
It was such a tough field. And that was why it was like, I could have probably made second place in this, which was mind blowing. But the sleeve slipped. So I came back and I did it was a 380 stone for reps. But I knew just by when I grabbed that 420, or whatever it weighed, it was going over. Yeah. But I just couldn't, it was, sleeve went down my forearm. And, when that happens, it's over. You're not getting anything. Yeah. And I didn't want to keep yanking at it and pop my bicep because right before that, what's his name? He tore his right before me.
I remember that. Yeah. I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So that's the only, I would have redone that one.
Okay. So on that same thread, if you could, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to day one when you started your strongman journey, is there anything you would have done different?
I want to say no, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because I kind of stumbled along and fell into all the right places the entire way. I met really good people at the right time. I think when I started, like Lee was competing, and it was such a good, I just kept running into the right people, learning the right things right as I needed to learn them, just all on accident. And
awesome.
Yeah, it worked out really well. Even right now, I'm really happy with where I'm at and the people that I know and my network of,
Cool. So, that's awesome, man.
I wouldn't change that at all.
So let's finish with this. As you're, getting more into coaching and when you're talking to people coming in as novice strongmen or strong women, competitors, what's the one piece or the best piece of advice you could give them or that you do like to give them when they come into it?
Just shut up and listen. you're not as good as you think you are.
That's right.
We got a lot of new athletes. They come in and they're talking about their potential all the time, and it's like you haven't even started. Like,
right,
you know, like you watch the YouTube videos, and that doesn't mean anything. Like,
yeah,
until you've done it, you don't know anything. And
yeah,
you know,
we've talked
like,
before
that's
about
how
ego and humility and kind of the conflict there. Yeah,
right. And that's how, you know, I had advanced to where I'm at now. Was I listened to everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even people that have competed less than me, I took what they had to say because they all had different experiences than me. So you're gonna at least, you know. Yeah. So I always just assume that everybody has something valuable to say. And I think that people just need to shut up and listen to what everybody else is, you know, the experienced athletes have to say.
No, I like that. Well, that's why we're doing the podcast, right? So that people can hopefully learn from guys like you saying stuff like that, right? And then shut up and listen.
Right.
Yeah, I've always called myself the bastard child of many fathers, right? Because there's been so many influential people along the way, like you said, Shawn, that have contributed to the form and techniques that I have now. And it's a tweak here and it's a tweak there. And some things you learn that work, and some things you learn that don't work, right?
Right.
It's different for every person. So
you never know if you don't try it. And
well, and I like hearing you say that too, because we've had this conversation before, Lee, about people who kind of are dismissive, whether it's you, me, or somebody else. If you're not as strong as someone, like if you can't out deadlift or out press them, they don't think you know shit. It's like, wait a second, just because I'm not as strong as you doesn't mean I don't know a couple things.
Right.
That's right.
And it doesn't, you know, that doesn't, like, I don't know who you had learned from too. You know what I mean? Like, you could have learned from all of these other people, and you have all of their knowledge that you're also sharing. And it's, I
always liked it in the beginning when I was still super strong, right? So, and all these young bucks that train at the gym with us, like Joey Blair, right? He's just an animal now. But that was one of the most satisfying things to watch, was to look over my shoulder and see him chasing me, right? And he wasn't there for long, but that was his ambition, was to beat the old man, right? So and then once he got there, then he just left me in the dust, which I'm just the whole time I'm just like, you know, good for you, man. So it's definitely you hit the nail on the head. Just because somebody isn't, you know, you're not as strong as somebody else in a certain lift or a certain event, you know, doesn't mean that they don't have the, you know, the knowledge to help you get better, for sure. So,
well, Shawn, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. We look forward to talking more in the future.
Yeah, we can do this for another 3-4 hours. So it just means we got to have you back. So
good luck next month, or good luck at your show the next one.
Yep, we'll be watching, brother. We'll be watching for sure. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Until next time, everybody.
Take care.
Take care.